This is From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Each week, Janice shares her wisdom to enlighten, educate, and advance the culture in America today. Janice Pons is a mother, author, and free thinker, and your host for our podcast this evening. Now let's join your host, Janice Pons.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. Come on in. Come on in here. Thank you for joining me today. Welcome, 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 welcome. I'm so glad that you are here. My name is Janice Pons. I am the host on this show, on this podcast, From Destruction to Dignity, Clinical Perspectives, Spiritual Truths. You know me, right? Those of you who have been sticking with me, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for your support, for your encouragement, your prayers, your love. It's been amazing. I'm so grateful. Thank you. I'm truly grateful. You know, I want to provoke thought, bring awareness, and what are we going to do? Point people towards intervention. Why? Because there are destructive patterns that are all around us in the constitutional republic of the United States of America, as represented by that beautiful flag. I love the flag. I'm proud to be an American. Well, at least I know I'm free. Whom the sun sets free is free indeed. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. Yeah. There ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. What's going on in the constitutional republic of the United States of America? What are we talking about tonight? We talk about from destruction to dignity. So we have to identify what is destructive. Because sometimes people are involved in things, they say, that ain't destructive. That's just how we live. That's how it is up here in the hood. Oh, really? Yeah? Mm-hmm. That's not normal, though, baby. What do you mean that's not normal? Shoot. Yeah. So God has a better way. God has a better way. So what do we want to do? In taking people from destruction to dignity, you know my heart. You know my heart. I love these children. I love these youth. We got to get them. Somebody's got to talk about this stuff. We need to be educating them. We need to be empowering them. We need to be empowering families. We need to encourage people towards intentional parenting. Why? They're dying too young. So tonight, today, this day, we're going to talk about detecting and preventing behavioral health crisis with children and youth. Is there a need to detect it? Yeah, we can detect it. And what happens, I see it, oh God. See, I see things and I go, I'm a detector of that. Of course, that's my heart, that's my calling, that's my passion, that's my training. And that's where my discernment operates strongly. And I just see things and I go, oh. See, when I did a podcast about, are you in a cult? I discern, I detect, I see, I hear, I look at patterns. The addiction, I detect, I discern, I see, I look at patterns, I look at frequency, intensity, duration. I think a certain way, I ask certain questions. And because I do, I understand. I want my fellow Americans to do well. I want us all to do well. I see these little children. I see them as doctors and dentists. I see them as clinicians. I see them as entrepreneurs. Who's going to plant that seed in them? So if we see patterns and trends emerging, do we need to pay attention to it? Detecting and preventing behavioral health crisis with our children and youth. Listen, we're in a crisis. We're in a crisis. in this nation, in the constitutional republic of the United States of America. And I need some politicians. I need spiritual leaders. I need pastors that are paying attention. There's so many leaders, they won't even talk about it. They don't want to. They just think that's messy. That's messy. What is going on? They're sitting right there in the churches. They're with us at work. They're all around us. And sometimes they need somebody that's sensitive and that is detecting what's going on. Because sometimes you'll speak a word in season. Sometimes your reaching out will be just the lifeline that they need. Sometimes that support, that recovery support system that you'll point them to is right on time. And it's God's intervention for them at that appointed time of destiny for them. But we need to be paying attention. We need to have a keenness of detecting and preventing behavioral health crisis with children and youth. Because guess what? I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Yeah, we want to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. Do they need us paying attention? Yeah. I'm keyed in on them. Emergency departments have seen significant increases in visits for all mental health emergencies. COVID turned us upside down. The worsening crisis in child and adolescent mental health in this nation took the stress levels that C-19 orchestrated and was perpetrated upon children and families. There was a huge, magnanimous disruption and adversity that was perpetrated upon humanity. Oh my God. Suicide rates went up. It did have a disproportionate impact on children in communities of color. Why? A lot of them had less resources to do something with in the first place. True story. So these children and youth, look, what they're dealing with now, we're talking about a mounting rate of anxiety, depression, attention deficit disorder, hyperactivity disorder. Some of them end up dealing with schizophrenia, something that ends up getting diagnosed at an early age, early 20s usually. Suicide and trauma. The suicide rate is quadruple for girls that are in the age of 10 years old over the last 20 years. Quadrupled. You've heard me quote this a lot. From February to March of 2021, the number of girls in our nation that attempted suicide from the ages of 12 to 17 increased in 1 month by 51%. Huh? Do we need to be detecting a behavioral health crisis with these precious girls, children, and youth? My God. There is, of course, more money that is involved in the annual medical costs of a child that does not have mental health issues, behavioral health crisis, than those that do. Children with a mental health illness had a mean annual medical cost in 2018 of about $5,254. Compared to And it went up to 6,000, 5,000 up to 6,000, 6,258. Compared to those that didn't have that, their mean cost was $1,554 for a matched control group without any mental health or behavioral health crisis or diagnosis. This is analyzing data. I like to look at the analysis of data. It helps me to understand. It helps me to know how to pray. It helps me know how to plan. It helps me to know what to talk about. I want to provoke thought, bring awareness, and point people towards intervention. Listen, we are surrounded by children and youth who have dealt with and are the victims of ACE, adverse childhood experiences. Adverse childhood experiences. Really, wow, just think about it. Some of you right now, you're just thinking, oh, wow, yeah, that was adverse. Oh, yeah, I went through that. Oh, my kids went through that. Oh, yeah, this happened to us. Oh, we got, me and my you and your husband or wife got divorced because this unfolded and that unfolded. And you know about this situation over at that church or at that workplace or this entity or that entity or your family or your friends. Adverse childhood experiences basically comes under three different categories: abuse, neglect, and household instability. Abuse, neglect, and household instability. Y'all ever grown up in an unstable home? Are you in one right now? Are you in an unstable marriage or relationship and your children are right in the midst and they're caught in a crossfire? Have they been abused? Have they been neglected, physically abused, psychologically abused, sexually abused? Adverse childhood experiences. Seeing their mother. I talked about that kid who 14-year-old kid that shot that man. That man was beating his mom up. He just walked up. He's standing there just waiting. The guy's cussing his mom out. Tell him, she said, if you say one more word, I'm going to hit you. Bam! Hit her like she was a heavyweight champion, fighting for the heavyweight championship of the world. He killed that man. Having a mother or a stepmother, seeing a significant female in your life, how do these children experience seeing violence, parental divorce, incarcerated relatives, seeing their mother beat, seeing their father beat? Domestic violence happens to men as well. Dealing with poverty, high stress. What are the parental coping skills or the lack thereof, the lack thereof, the lack thereof? Neglect. Someone that's in prison, an absent father, an absent relative. Domestic violence, parental abandonment, mental illness of a parent, victim of sexual abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, places where you should feel safe, you're not even safe there. Churches, traumatized in a church, get out, leave. Leave. If there's a pattern of leadership traumatizing people in church. We got to be safe, guys. If we're going to go to be safe. Unintended pregnancy, all these sexually transmitted infections, alcohol and drug abuse, sickness, disease, cancer, low educational levels. Remember I did the podcast about in California, 90% of students do not read and do math well. With Black students, they are a high percentage are functionally illiterate. Household poverty, unemployment, good God. All these patterns of destruction in the constitutional republic of the United States where we should be thriving. Remember when we had the opportunity zones? 9,000 of them. Remember? Remember when people coming out of prison early? The majority of them were black men. They had 1,500 HR directors across this nation that were in place and ready to give people jobs. Yeah. That was under somebody that filled this position. First Step Act, second chance hiring. Where are those things now? Where are those 9,000 opportunity zones that were in? I'm political right now, yeah, because it all ties in. Because if these politicians aren't paying attention to what's going on with these children and youth and being proactive to put things in place to turn this tide around in the constitutional republic of the United States of America and bringing all these people in, and what's our focus on? What's our focus on? Paying for not our children, the medical care, the housing, the food of who? All these dynamics going on in our nation, all these presentations, the ACE study, Adverse Childhood Experiences, that was published in 1998. It was a massive undertaking, but they were trying to wrap their mind around what was going on, these trends. Why did our scores go down, guys? Why in the 60s and 70s in America, we were number one globally, academically. Now we're not. Is it 38%? I mean, the 38th place, 34th, 34th, 34th. I think it's 34th. It might be 38th. I think it's 34th place. Why? Why? How did we get there? How did we get there in this nation? This ACE study, it was published in 1998. It clearly documented the association of adverse child experiences with poor outcomes. Poor outcomes. Those that have been subjected to all those things that I just specified, those children and youth have been set up. There is a detection of them being set up to have poor outcomes. So, if that's the case, are we supposed to just go, well, you know, that's just how it is. That's just how it is. Does it have to be? Do they have to turn out to be alcoholics? Do they have to turn out to be drug addicts? Do they have to turn out to be rapists because they are totally out of control? Do they have to turn out to be suicidal? Do they have to turn out having health factors because of high levels of cortisol in their bodies, where their bodies are more prone to a propensity towards inflammation in their bodies? Is that their lot in life? These children and youth, why do we need to be detecting it and preventing the crisis? Listen, what is the goal? What is the goal? The goal is to build their resiliency. I love thinking and talking like that and pouring it into them because they respond. They respond. That's how I raised my son. I was very intentional. Thank God for parents like Patrick and Sharinda Hampton. They instill resiliency in board number 1, board number 2, board number 3, and board number 4. Yeah. Resiliency. It looks like something in children and youth. They aren't necessarily born knowing. You got to teach it to them. You have to instill it in them. There's so much coming at them today. Do you know that a recent study of groups of black children and adolescents, it showed that they have greater than 3 times the prevalence of depression in the population than they had in the past? Why? Why? What are they being exposed to? That all of a sudden they're depressed. It used to didn't be like that when I was growing up. We had to get it. We had to get after it. Yes, we were dealing with Jim Crow. Yes, the KKK was coming through. But boy, it motivated us to get our behinds up to be somebody. And back then they were doing that. And Jesse Jackson, he was on track then. He'd have us repeat, I am somebody. Yeah, I was repeating all that. Because, it motivated me to do something different. It motivated me to study hard. It motivated me to have resilience. What does resilience look like? These kids that are, listen to this. This is staggering stuff. It's important to note that 45% of patients who actually commit suicide have been seen by a primary care provider within 30 days prior to their being successful, completing suicide. What? What did we miss? What did we miss? 77% have been seen within 12 months. What did we miss? Detection of it. What did we miss? What did we miss? What did we miss? Listen, I am so keyed in to what people say. There are people, I presented this to people. I'm like, sweetie, listen, I'm just telling you. Sometimes I know it by the Holy Ghost. Yeah. I know that submitting oneself to a structured process that's anointed by God, where you go in there and dissect your soul. These children, these youth, they need their souls dissected. Why? They've been ravaged. They've been raped. They've been abused. They've been browbeat. It's been rough. And they haven't put a language to it. So the way like that guy that beat that woman, hit that woman twice hard, and that woman's son shot him to get him off of, that boy said, in other words, he shot, get off my mama. That man that ended up dead, nice looking guy, he was in his 30s. He wrote his own script that led to his demise. That man, I said, whoa, boy, he has no clue about how to be assertive. So I don't know who he was really angry with, and was he being passive aggressive towards that woman? But he ended up being, he was either passive aggressive or he was downright aggressive and physically hit her, and it cost him his life. What did he need? He needed to be sitting down talking to somebody before he would escalate so quickly to that level of being out of control. It cost him his life. So somebody like that, he could benefit so greatly from being in a structured setting. Here I go again. We're wanting to empower people to go from destruction to dignity. We don't want any more children committing suicide in the constitutional republic of the United States of America. We need our political leaders keyed in, not sitting around with their heads in the sand and got their attention focused on sending billions of dollars somewhere else. And our children are suffering like this. 51% of girls, a 51% increase of girls attempting suicide in 1 month. No, that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. Cognitive behavioral therapy, you've heard me say it once. If I said it once, I'll say it again. Why? I've seen it work. And CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy for adolescents with depression, has shown to be effective in lowering suicide rates and suicidal ideation. You know why? You identify the cognitive distortions. I'm a master at doing CBT. That's not what this podcast is about, though. But boy, that's where I see the Holy Spirit come in there, dissect their mind, their will, their emotions, their intellect, their drive, and their desires. No one has ever taken them there. These precious children and youth, they deserve to be taken there. And I've seen what happens when they do. And their parents deserve it as well. It lowers the suicide rates. It lowers the ideation. A suicidal ideation is the thought to end your life. Seeing it as a solution to a problem. Suicide is not a wish to die. It's a quick way to end suffering, and there are a whole lot of other ways to address suffering. A lot. And it works. What do we need? Mental health education in the schools. Good God, not sexuality. Mental health education. Are you kidding me? Focus on teaching kindergartners how to masturbate? Are you kidding me? That's what's in the books. Teaching them explicitly how to engage in sexual acts. Mental health education, strategy, skills, tools, getting them connected. Substance abuse treatment, recovery support groups. Yeah, I've seen it work. I've seen some powerful things happen in support groups. For 6 months, I went to a support group. I was shocked at what happened when someone said, you need to go over there. I think it was called New Hope. Boy, wow. I was pleasantly surprised. I was blown away, and it changed my life. Yeah, it was an Al-Anon group. It was for the loved ones of those, Al-Anon is for the loved ones of those who have someone in your family that's dealt with addiction. All of mine had died. That they were gone. But someone told me, you need to go over there. You watch. It was powerful. It took me to another level. Early intervention services need to be included with a multidisciplinary team. I'm a part of a multidisciplinary team. Let me tell you what, when we show up at the table, we roll. I love it. Psychiatrist over here, nurse, social worker, case manager, neuropsychologist. I'm the director of a particular department. I got my part. People say, what do you do? I advocate for those who can't advocate for themselves. I got to get the insurance company to authorize them. So I have to clinically present a picture and ongoingly present it. Why? I need you to pay for them to get help. Because in the long run, when they get stabilized and have aftercare, we're going to save you money. Yeah. Multidisciplinary treatment team. That's what we do. I love it. With a multimodal treatment that's tailored specifically to these children and youth and their families, looking at the psychosocial component, the psychopharmacologic aspects of it, if it's needed for crisis intervention. Mental health is shaped by certain things. Genetics, environment, relationships, social forces, policies. Hello. Policies that's affecting us as Americans. Policies. Who's keyed into policies for us in this nation? For these babies, for these children, for these youth. They've experienced things. They need us, guys. They need us paying attention. Listen, let me tell you something right now. You know I could go on and on, but let me tell you. There are destructive patterns going on. God is not pleased that we're ignoring these things. We are ignoring churches turn a deaf. I'm so tired of churches that don't want to talk about this stuff. I about had it. And a lot of them are milking people for money and won't even put a support group in. Get a Celebrate Recovery group in your church that people can gather safely. Find out what that's about. Why it helps us to create environments where we take them from destruction to dignity, because why? We need to detect and prevent behavioral health crisis in children, youth, and in their families. Good night.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Janice's mission is to provoke thought, bring awareness, and point people towards intervention when needed. As a reminder, this show is not therapy, but for educational purposes only. For more information, check out JanicePons.com or follow her on social media.
Education, affirmation, dedication, information, revelation.